Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of AI Product Builders. This product podcast is where we delve into the dynamic and ever-evolving world of AI. Today, we are thrilled to have a very special guest, the founder and CEO of Product Faculty, Moe Ali. With over a decade of experience as a product leader and recognized product expert, our guest brings wealth of knowledge and insights into the wealth of product management. Product Faculty has been established itself as a trusted source of insights for over 250 experienced product managers, leaders from the vault of firms, including tech giants like Amazon, Google, Slack, and Meta. So join us today as we dive into conversation about the intersection of AI and product management and learn from the expert, Moe Ali. So Mo, welcome to AI Product Builders. I'm very thrilled to have this conversation with you today.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me as a guest. It's an honor.
Yeah. So let's just start in. So, Mo, could you provide our listeners with a brief introduction about yourself and the journey that led you to found Product Faculty?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So I've been a product leader for quite some time, and while I was a product leader, I started to do some guest talks, and that led me to do some teaching
Mm-hmm,
in product while I was working. And I started trading in product management about 10 years ago. The field is fairly new.
mm-hmm,
And when I was doing trading, we were very early in the trading field. What I
mm-hmm,
found was, there's all these great trading programs out there, but actually they're designed to help you get a job. At that time, there weren't any programs designed to help you once you're on the job.
mm-hmm,
And that is the catalyst for me starting product faculty, which really has a curriculum that is much more advanced, much more in
mm-hmm,
depth, to help PMs that have already landed the job excel
mm-hmm.
and do well in that role. So it's been a 7-year journey. We're so privileged to partner with some amazing executives. I personally learned the most from our faculty members, and we call them executive in residence.
Yeah,
Folks like Bradley Horowitz, who's a VP product at Google, and Amit Philay is VP product at Microsoft, and all these great people. And it's a true pleasure to learn their hard-earned insights and pass them on to our students. And that's sort of what we've been doing for the last 7 years.
yeah, that's great. I see a lot of senior product managers doing this, and they have amazing things to say about it. So, but I want to know more about what happens in that this intensive boot camp. What happens in product faculty? Like, what unique approaches or methodologies do you implement in training the senior product leaders?
Yeah, it's a great question. If you think about the journey of how people learn product,
Mm-hmm.
most people learn on the job and they
Yes.
fall into it by accident. I'm an engineer. I fell into product by accident and I loved it. But
Yeah.
a lot of people are like me. We fumble. We figure out the craft based on our past experience, which isn't optimal. Then people go from here, and then they start to do some self-study. When it comes to
Mm-hmm.
self-study, there's been an explosion of content and information out there. There's so much amazing, rich product leaders
Yeah.
sharing their Substacks and books and videos. And while all this information is great and it's out there, it can actually be overwhelming. Because
Mm-hmm.
how do you sift through all this information to find the right stuff? In fact, I was talking to someone today. He's like, I'm trying to develop my strategy, and there was like 1,000 articles I can find on it. It's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
So what we do with product faculty is, look, when you think about doctors, they don't go to a library and read a book and become a doctor. That you can
Yeah.
have the best materials in the world. You can't read a book and become a doctor. Training is what makes you a doctor. And so
Yeah.
really our methodology is we are not a course, we're training. And the difference
Mm-hmm.
between us and the free information is content is only one of the 4 pieces of how we get to crystallization. The next is the classroom experience, learning in a live environment, not
Mm-hmm.
trying to study on your own because you get so distracted. Then we have one-on-one coaching, and then we have a capstone project. And really what we found is the way to get to crystallization of skills is
Mm-hmm.
all these things. It's the content, it's the
Yeah.
coaching, it's the case studies, it's the capstone, and it's the classroom, all of it coming together to help you crystallize the information and perform at a senior product manager level.
Got it. So today, the product managers, are in dilemma with a lot of AI going on. So how does this development process for AI products fundamentally differ from traditional product development? Like, how do companies build these AI products? Like, what are the steps involved here? Like, what should be product managers be aware of?
Totally. It's a great question. And, we are so lucky to be in one of these shifts that are transformative for product management. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are kind of skeptical in the
Yeah.
past of these shifts. And, when you think about crypto, everyone was like, crypto was going to take over the world and
Yeah.
it was going to change everything. And everyone's like, well, what happened to that? Nothing's really happening. So I understand that people are rightfully hesitant when they
Yeah.
hear, oh, this Gen AI thing is going to be
Yeah.
transformative. But it so turns out that it is transformative and it's already within a 1 year period changing the way that we transform and how we build. And at
Yeah.
Product Faculty came up with this 5A framework that we're going to
Mm-hmm.
dig into on
Yeah.
how people can develop products, with Gen AI. First
Mm-hmm.
is acquiring the knowledge. That's
Mm-hmm.
super critical in helping you understand fundamentally what this technology is capable of. We
Mm-hmm.
are we are big proponents of people reading the Transformers paper
Yes.
about the actual transformer and how it created, how it works. Right. So that's step
Mm-hmm.
one, acquire knowledge. Step
Got it.
two is appraise pain points.
Mm-hmm.
Assess your critical customer journey and figure out for your customers, both internal and external, where you can
Mm-hmm.
potentially apply this technology.
Mm-hmm.
Next is ascertain solutions. Hey, you know what? There is a tremendous amount of hype on Gen AI, but
Mm-hmm.
actually, traditional ML models may be a better fit when it comes
Yes.
to something like classification. And so you
Yeah.
don't want expensive Gen AI models. So ascertain the type of solution, then you
Mm-hmm.
assess the opportunity, step by step evaluating the feasibility and the strategic
Mm-hmm.
fit, and then you prototype and you build. So those are the 5 steps: acquire knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
appraise points, ascertain solutions, assess opportunities, and prototyping. And so we'll talk about those in a little bit more depth as we go forward here.
Yeah. So talking about acquiring knowledge, like how should companies or individuals determine if incorporating AI into product is the right strategic decision? There's also a lot happening around AI. I don't know if
Yeah.
the right use case. How do product managers go about, thinking the right use cases around AI?
Yeah, this is a great question. I'll give you probably everyone that's been on your podcast. I'm assuming
Yeah.
most people will say this line because I see this so often.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't worry about the technology. Just focus on the pain point. Just focus on the
Mm-hmm.
customer. Focus on the
Mm-hmm.
user. And me running product faculty, which is all about users,
Yeah.
I will tell you no.
Yeah.
You have to understand the technology. So
Yeah.
while the most popular wisdom around
Mm-hmm.
AI is, oh, just focus on the customer problem and then think about the technology after, I said, no, 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 no. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta understand this technology because once you understand this technology, then you can possibly come up with potential use cases that where
Mm-hmm.
you can apply it. And once you fundamentally understand this technology, then you're gonna open your eyes to how it's like literally everywhere in your company you
Yeah.
can apply this Gen AI technology. So, how do you acquire the knowledge? Right
Mm-hmm.
now, again, we're in that space. There's a ton of free information out there. Go ahead and do
Yes.
that and consume it all. But we are coming up with something special we'll announce later this year that will help you
Mm-hmm.
organize. And so that's coming a bit later. And so there's multiple ways of acquiring knowledge. The key thing is don't be lazy.
Got it.
Don't just start to think about user problem. Go dig deep and understand understand this technology because once you do, you'll be able to find much better ways of applying it.
Got it. It makes sense. So regarding appraising pain points, like what are the top five things that the user need, product manager needs to keep in mind while thinking of these pain points?
Yeah, the top things when it comes to appraising pain points, it's linked to acquiring knowledge. Once you understand the knowledge, then you will find when you're appraising pain points, there are
Mm-hmm.
likely many more opportunities that exist internal to
Mm-hmm.
your company
Yeah.
as opposed to external. When we
Mm-hmm.
think about what the work that LinkedIn is doing with AI product management and it makes it easier to fill in things, there
Yeah.
are tremendous and even more opportunities that exist inside of your company. So the
Mm-hmm.
customer success team, how are they doing things that are repetitive? Even
Yeah.
routing traffic in data centers, how can that be done better? So
Mm-hmm.
anytime where there is anything repetitive, that your users are doing,
Mm-hmm.
AI can help you with that. And specifically, Gen AI can help you with
Mm-hmm.
classification. It can
Yes.
help you with summarizing, and there's a couple of other areas. And once you
Mm-hmm.
understand that, then you can think about applying that in your areas.
Usually product managers tend to focus a lot on competition, and that's the major focus when deriving product strategy. So what's your take on that? What should be the main focus when defining the product strategy?
When in defining the product strategy, um, people say it's a lot about strategy is about differentiation. You might have heard of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yes.
It's all about being different than your competition.
Mm-hmm.
Differentiation is super key. But I can name you 1,000 products that were
Mm-hmm.
differentiated and they failed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Think about this product, Quibi. Quibi was this product that was a multi-billion-dollar investment, bringing the best of Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
and the best of tech together, and they created this app that was like a TikTok competitor, but very
Mm-hmm.
different. If you think about differentiation, it
Mm-hmm.
was massively differentiated. It was so different, nothing like that existed.
Yeah.
Yet it was the most colossal failure ever.
Mm-hmm.
So if differentiation isn't the thing that makes you successful, and
Mm-hmm.
by the way, you look at the best leader, everyone talk about differentiation, they'll stop
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
But if that isn't the thing, what is going to make you successful?
Yeah.
Well, it's not about differentiation. It's about contrast.
Mm-hmm.
It's about contrasting against a complaint that
Mm-hmm.
your customer has
Mm-hmm.
about the existing way of doing things. That could
Mm-hmm.
be with the competition or the non-obvious way. So
Yeah.
I can dig into that a little bit more. Essentially, when
Mm-hmm.
you think about contrast, the line that
Mm-hmm.
I like to say is don't compete,
Mm-hmm.
contrast instead.
Got it.
And you contrast against the big complaint that your customer has. I can tell you a startup today that if it was launched, it would be a $1 billion startup. It will be, okay, launch
Mm-hmm.
Airbnb without the
Mm-hmm.
fees.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening there? You're contrasting
Mm-hmm.
against fees. People hate, it's such a big complaint.
Yeah.
People hate fees, and that's why it
Peace.
failed,
Yeah.
right? Now let's look at all these other products that failed. Let's look at Google Hangouts. Why did Google
Mm-hmm.
Hangouts fail? Google has Google Hangout was their social network that Google had, right? A long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Google has the best network effects ever.
Yeah.
1 billion people are on Google. Like
Yeah.
everyone's on there.
Yeah.
They have the best brand, the best researchers, the best talent, the highly talented employees. Why did it fail? Well, it failed because it didn't contrast against Facebook. I know many people may or may not like Facebook, but like it was working fine. It did a good
Yes.
job. And so you can't just launch a product
Mm-hmm.
that's there isn't a big complaint about. Same thing with LinkedIn stories or Twitter stories.
Mm-hmm.
Why did it fail? Well, it turns out Instagram stories is doing a fine job.
Yeah.
And so when you're thinking about your product strategy, it
Mm-hmm.
really comes down to understanding what are the complaints
Mm-hmm.
that your customers have
Mm-hmm.
about your competition or your
Okay.
non-competition. You could be
Mm-hmm.
in a white space that it hasn't really taken off, but if there is no big complaint,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if you're Google, then bring up
Mm-hmm.
billions of dollars to promote,
Mm-hmm.
you will fail, or you're gonna have very lackluster results.
Yeah, that I think that was a very interesting insight. So you touched upon understanding the technology and customer-centric approach. So while defining solutions, how do product managers balance this both? Like, how do I make sure that I incorporate AI and I also make sure that it's most customer-centric approach?
Yeah. So going to when you deeply understand the technology, then you understand its capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand the capabilities, you won't be able to ascertain solutions
Yeah,
in a proper way.
yeah.
Now there are certain types of problem that both
Mm-hmm.
ML and Gen AI are solving for.
Yeah.
While we're very familiar with what ML does in terms of primarily classification
Mm-hmm.
and that it does it cheaply, it
Yeah.
turns out that Gen AI opens the realm for many more things.
Yeah.
And when you're ascertaining solutions, this is where you take the power of many to help you come
Mm-hmm.
up with ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so don't do this on your own. You
Mm-hmm.
really need a culture of everyone thinking about Gen AI and thinking about its capabilities to really make sure that you can come up with solutions that are
Yeah.
AI driven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to prototyping, we'll talk a little bit about that, but I'll share something right now. See,
Mm-hmm.
the one of the biggest differences between how regular product management differs than building Gen AI products
Mm-hmm.
is that it's entirely flipped how you prototype and you get to a solution.
Yes.
See, in the typical world, most of the effort is coming up with the right prototype, and there's a lot of effort that goes into building the right prototype.
Mm-hmm.
With Gen AI, getting to a prototype is 10% of the work. It's so
Yeah.
quick,
It's so quick. Yeah.
and you can get out to your customers. It's like
Mm-hmm.
very easy to set that up.
Mm-hmm.
But 90% of the problems come once you're in the customer
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many different edge cases and how it can be used.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's entirely flipped into how
Mm-hmm.
product managers typically think. Typically, it takes quite a bit to get to a prototype that's workable and believable. But
Mm-hmm.
with Gen AI, you're there immediately. The
Yeah.
problems start afterwards, and you have to really think through that in the cycle afterwards.
Got it. So with the prototyping, right? So how does the prototype look like for Gen AI? Like should you implement your models? You should train your models and then talk to customers, or how is that?
I'm gonna give credit to Microsoft. I really love their approach to.
Mm-hmm.
They actually built this like UX guide, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, we can link to
Yeah.
this. They have some principles when you come to developing Gen AI products. I'll share some of them, which I thought were really interesting. They say because this technology is so new, you gotta
Mm-hmm.
warn your customers of hallucinations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a standard line, and I see that
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. Whenever you see a chatbot, it will tell you that this chatbot can make things up and it can
Yeah.
hallucinate. So one of those principles are that is letting people know that what can come out of this has to be
Yes.
approved. Right, that's super critical. The second piece is never ever letting anything go out to your customers without an end user accepting it.
Mm-hmm.
So because of all these different edge cases and what can happen, as an example, you're an e-commerce company and you want to upgrade all of your descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
With Gen AI, if you've got 10,000 items in your catalog, you can do
Mm-hmm.
that instantly.
Mm-hmm.
But you should never let you go from Gen AI to customer facing descriptions. There has to be a human step
Mm-hmm.
to ensure that hallucinations are taken care of. So those are
Yes.
some of the things to think about that's different than developing regular
Yes.
products.
Yeah. So I want to use last 10 minutes talking about the current product managers' challenges. With the rise of Gen AI application, there's a growing demand for product managers collaborating with data engineers, data scientists, ML engineers. Like in your opinion, what would an optimal team structure look like?
Yeah, so I've been talking to some teams at some of the bigger companies.
Mm-hmm.
Can't really name them all, but I'll say like let's think about like the Googles and Meta and Shopify and that level. And when they're structuring their teams, um, what they found is typically you would have let's say a very engineering heavy company would
Mm-hmm.
have 10 to 15 engineers, right?
Yeah.
That's an engineering led company and one PM.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't the case. This is typically at the FANG companies. Other companies will be 3 to 5, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about a very engineering heavy company. And they would have one data scientist.
Yes.
The difference with Gen AI is that there's a much higher number of data scientists
Yes.
in your squad.
Mm-hmm.
That's unusual. So if you're thinking about a team and putting them together, and you've gotten, let's say, 13 product managers, 13 designers, it's not 13 PMs, one is more
Mm-hmm.
than enough.
Yeah.
And you would typically have like 1 or 2 UX folks and then
Yeah.
a data scientist. Now you're having up to 6 data scientists.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, that is something that's different about
Mm-hmm.
working in with Gen AI, if that's your core way of working.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that is super important because the cleaner your data, it all comes. Your data is your differentiator, right? That's
Yes.
the oil. And
Yeah.
if you've got clean data, if you've got good data scientists, you can harness that data. You're going to come up with better solutions. That's sort of one of the big changes that I've seen in speaking to leaders that are building out teams dedicated to this.
Yeah. So, for product managers who do not have experience with building AI products or generative AI right now, what kind of skills and competencies they require product managers in this particular domain?
Yeah, so you don't necessarily need to have a technical degree, uh, but you have to be comfortable with getting very nerdy and technical,
Yes.
right? So, now you can even, the good thing about using LLMs is that the way you prompt them is with English. So that
English. Yeah.
you've got some learning there in terms of
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be super technical. But I say go a step further. Even build your own little transformer and try to play around with it, getting as technical as possible. I think it's important to do that, and the way to do that is to just lead in. There's a tremendous amount of free information that's out there. Google has some great videos, and
Yes.
there's a bunch of other stuff, and we're also going to put out some amazing free content. Um, and it's going to be highly technical on purpose. We want people to be comfortable with this, get
Yes.
technical, because the more you deeply understand uh, this technology and how to work with it, the better
Mm-hmm.
solutions that you're going to come with. And it's time to not be scared of the technical end of things and sort of lead it.
Got it. So, how do you use AI in your daily work?
So I'm going to think about the most exciting ways. So we use it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from my emails and emailing executives and making sure that I'm polite enough, to even coming up with um, our course content in terms of coming up with different examples of different fields.
Mm-hmm.
We have one example for healthcare, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're working with a fintech client, now you can put in your framework there and ask it to translate it for fintech. So that type of customization has become tremendously easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some other use cases.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the biggest one for me is around. So I do a lot of communication with executives, just making sure my tone is right and I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming across in a succinct way.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is something that I find super helpful. The other end is on customer insight. So we do a ton of customer. We do about
Yeah.
30 customer interviews a month. Um, all that information, all those customer interviews go through Fireflies, right? And from Fireflies, we're going to get a summary. That summary sent to us on WhatsApp, and so there's
Got
a
it.
constant stream of information coming in
Yeah.
from PMs that we're interviewing to understand their
Yeah.
concerns and what they're going through. So it's been super super helpful from that perspective.
Yeah. I think user feedback analysis has been much easier with Gen AI. I can't agree more. So, what's your current favorite AI tool right now?
My current favorite AI tool would be trying to go with something that's not the obvious. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll mention a couple. So one is Remedy.ai. It's like a photo
Mm-hmm.
enhancing application. We
Mm-hmm.
share a lot of student photos, and so we want to make sure the
No,
students look the best. And so a lot of people
got it.
they're the up resolution and that type of thing. I find that really really helpful. Another one would be I think um,
Mm-hmm.
Adobe has not Firefly is great. They've
Mm-hmm.
done a great job with images.
Yes.
And when you're trying to create them and tell a better story, that would probably be my top.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but aside from that, I mean, I would I always have all the different LLMs open. So I have Bard and Cloud and ChatGPT open.
Yeah.
And whenever I have a query, I search all of them and then take the best answer. So
Take
I'd
the
say
best
those
answer. Yeah.
those three are the top.
Thank you for that. So you have vast experience in defining product strategy. Like for those who are looking to enhance their strategic thinking, especially which is very vital right now, what specific strategy books or resources do you recommend?
Yeah, I recommend books and practice. So the
Mm-hmm.
books I recommend are I love Blue Ocean Strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It, it's
Yeah,
it, it's
all time.
it's yeah. I mean, it's there is better stuff out there, but it's pretty good in terms of helping you understand
Mm-hmm.
differentiation. It doesn't talk about contrast much, but that's good. Understanding
Mm-hmm.
Michael Porter is another great book that I
Mm-hmm.
recommend.
Mm-hmm.
But what I also recommend is looking at any major launch and doing an assessment of it. So take your favorite product, whether it's Riverside, this product, or Miro,
Yes.
whenever they do a launch,
Mm-hmm.
try to analyze what were the strategic things that they did and write yourself a one pager of why this makes sense in terms of their
Got it.
ecosystem and their platform. And doing
Mm-hmm.
that work yourself is going to be really, really helpful in terms of just like reading and listening, and to being a
Mm-hmm.
little more actively involved.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So I think that's it for today. Um, as we conclude this episode of AI Product Builders, a big thank you to our guest Mo for his invaluable insights on AI and product managers and senior product managers who are out there. Please do check out the program offered by product faculty. It's amazing and it's much relevant in today's world. And thank you, our listeners, for joining us. Stay tuned for more episodes. Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
sweetie.
you, Mo.
Such an honor to be on this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Mo.